Hello everybody, Jim here. Welcome back to my palatial Tokyo estate for another edition of More Games. And oh boy, this is going to be a fun one because today I'm going to take a look at some of the worst NES games that you've ever played. That's right, you, the audience. I left a question in my community tab here on the channel saying, what's the worst NES game you've ever played in your life? And I got a whole bunch of responses from people saying all kinds of different games. Most of them I'd heard are really terrible. None of these games, though, I've actually ever played myself. So I picked out 5 recommendations from you, the viewers, and then I picked a 6th game that I wanted to try out for myself that I had heard is legendarily bad for a total of 6 horrible, awful, rotten, no good NES games that I had to suffer through, or for at least a little bit. I didn't finish any of these games. I certainly wasn't going to put myself through that. So hey, is the game that you recommended in the video? Watch and find out. Wow, the mystery. It's getting to me. Or you can just look at the chapters. I usually put them down there. So anyway, yeah, half a dozen really bad NES games. Should be a lot of not fun. It wasn't fun for me to play, but it might be fun for you to watch. Anyway, let's get started with this, the first game. Okay, getting started with a game very renowned for how bad it is, and that is Back to the Future. And this game was chosen by Creek and Seminole, who wrote, got Back to the Future for Christmas one year. Worst NES game I ever owned, and I still have it too. That's tough. That's a tough break on Christmas. I can imagine the disappointment actually playing it. Like, I can imagine the excitement, like seeing the box, if you liked the Back to the Future movies, but then the like soul-crushing disappointment of actually playing it, because this is the first time I played this game, and I became aware of its existence because of AVGN, and he talked about how absolutely awful it is. And in the back of my mind, it was one of those things because I had recently played and reviewed Nightmare on Elm Street, which he also made a video on long ago, and I thought the game was actually pretty good. So in my head I was like, could the same apply to Back to the Future? Because I'd never bothered to play it. But the same does not apply. This game sucks. It's really not any good. Like, as far as like the way it controls and everything, it's like not that bad, I guess. The worst thing is it's just boring. It's boring and very repetitive, the running stages anyway. And then I got through 4 of those, and then I got to the diner stage, and then if you fail at the diner stage, you have to repeat the previous running stage. And so after that happened a number of times, I was like, alright, screw this game. And I can understand why, in that original AVGN video, he only showed the running bits, and then I think, the Lou's diner, and that was it. And I can understand why, because when playing this game, like after failing the diner a couple of times, I just really did not want to play this game anymore. Just the repetitiveness of those running stages is, it's just awful. And I know after you finish the diner, there's more running stages, and then there's other stages after that where you like catch hearts, and I think play the guitar. You just like catch guitar like music notes or whatever. Like, I've seen that in other videos, and I just didn't care enough to try to get to those stages. After I failed the diner, I got like 3 game overs, I think, and I'm like, I went and watched like a long play afterwards of just someone else beating the game, and that's something I'll point out. A lot of these games, they're bad, and you know, so I think as a consequence of that, a lot of people just never beat them just because like they're poorly designed. But once you figure out the trick to them, like, you can beat them in like under 30 minutes. There's really not anything to these games. But anyway, the graphics suck. The music is just terrible. It's just this repetitive track just over and over and over again. It gets irritating very quickly. And then when you're in the diner, there's no music at all. So yeah, there you go. But that's it. I got to the diner. I got a few game overs, and I was like, yeah, screw this game. So yeah, Creek and Seminole, you have my my condolences, I guess, even though nobody died. But you got this as a Christmas gift. That's a bad Christmas gift. That's a really bad roll on Christmas. So yeah, sorry about that, buddy. But yeah, I played it, and I thought it was just boring and repetitive, and it just looks and sounds like shit. So yeah, Back to the Future, it does not go into the same camp as Nightmare on Elm Street. This game is just plain bad. Next up, another classic from the LJN library. This is the Uncanny X-Men, and this was chosen by Choco Loco James 213. He said X-Men, yikes, and yikes is right. Wow, it's like it's hard to fathom how you could get your hands on a property like X-Men. And you've got characters like Cyclops and Wolverine and Storm and all what have you. And they have cool powers and things. And even when you're working with like an 8-bit console, you think it would just occur to people, let's like make this into maybe like a little platformer, a platformer beat 'em up hybrid, something like that. But what this is, it's hard to fathom. You pick 2 characters at a time. And again, I'm sure everybody knows this. Some of them can shoot, and then some of them just sort of like nudge. And I think the general idea is the ones that nudge, either they're a little more durable, like Colossus or Wolverine, or I think maybe in the case of Nightcrawler, he'll be like a bit faster. But they suck. And then the characters that shoot also suck. I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. You can choose from a bunch of different stages. You can play them in any order you want. But you're constantly being hit by things, and I didn't bother. I think if you pause, you can see how much health you have left. I didn't bother doing that, though. I just tried to, like, blast my way through. That really seemed like the only thing that could be done, because there are enemies everywhere, and there are, like, little turrets everywhere, and I would get to portals and things where I could go to other parts of the stage, but there wasn't any really, like, clear direction of, like, where to go or what to do. I'm sure maybe that's, like, explained. Like, if I had some sort of resources. This is a game I did not, like, watch any, like, long plays of beforehand. I'll do that sometimes just because, like, if I'm gonna play one of these games for the first time, going in, like, totally blind can sometimes suck. But I was like, you know, this seems, like, simple enough. Walk around and kill things and just get to the end of the stage. I couldn't get to the end of any of the stages because, one, I didn't really know how to, and 2, I was dying rather quickly because there's just so much shit on screen that kills you, and obviously I picked characters that can shoot each time, but like it's really inaccurate, like the hit detection, and then when they die you just take over your nudging character, and that's even worse. And then there are like barriers that'll just like pop up, and it's like you have to walk through this barrier, like there's no other option, there's nowhere else to go. But it's very difficult to get through them without getting hit and then probably dying, like, immediately. So yeah, this game plays like absolute garbage, and it looks like shit. This is just a horrible looking game. Like, these are like Action 52 level graphics. It just looks so bad. And the sound design is just terrible as well. Just like really irritating, crappy, looping music. Yeah, just really terrible. For a property as awesome as the X-Men, this is just like inexcusable. Like, luckily X-Men games would get like much better later when like Capcom or Konami got a hold of them. But yeah, this is, I'm glad, because as a X-Men fan as a kid, I'm glad I didn't have to play games like this. The first X-Men games I played were the Konami arcade game and Mutant Apocalypse, and then also like X-Men 1 and 2 on the Genesis. All of those games are just like light years beyond what this shit is. So Chocoloco James 213, thanks a lot for putting me through this. Yeah, this game is terrible. It is, its mutant power would be making me angry with how shitty it is. Uncanny X-Men on the NES. Awful, awful game. Alright, next up, another classic from the AVGN video library. It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and this one was chosen by Settle Down 77. And this one I was really not looking forward to, just because I've heard so many times that it's just like the worst NES game, it's the worst game ever. I can say that I actually enjoyed this more than both Back to the Future and X-Men, because like I got the premise pretty quickly. It's just when you're Jekyll, you just have to walk as far as you can without losing all of your health. So you have to like jump over obstacles and avoid people who are like trying to hurt you, and especially the guy that drops the bombs, because the bombs will take all your health away like immediately. But I got the gist of it. Jekyll's trying to get to his wedding, and then the people in his neighborhood are just assholes who, for some reason, just get their kicks out of hurting him. And then when you lose all your health, or is it health or is it a stress meter? I can't recall which, but you turn into Hyde, and then it turns into like a nighttime stage, and then you just, it's an auto-scroller, and you shoot and punch things until you get your stress meter all the way down, and you go back to being Jekyll. And if you get to the point where you collapsed as Jekyll, then you die, which is like fine. So like I understood the premise pretty quickly, and I would say like visually this game isn't so bad. Like compared to like Back to the Future and X-Men, it's like a great looking game. And audio-wise as well, like it looks and sounds much better than those two games. So it's not the bottom of the barrel in terms visuals and sound, and in terms of gameplay, it's just kind of boring. It wasn't like horrible, like it wasn't, I could wrap my head around what I was supposed to do. The controls were like fine, I didn't really have a problem with them. I was just bored like immediately. Like the premise just doesn't, there's not a lot to it. When you're Jekyll, you're just walking, and it's not really very fun. And then when you're Hyde, you're trying to be, you know, get back to being Jekyll like as quickly as possible. So the whole point of this game is to eschew the section where there's action, and try your best to stick to the part of the game where there's no action, and it's like way more boring. So that's what I can say about Jekyll and Hyde. It's not a good game at all, but it's not in the same category as X-Men and Back to the Future, where it's not all bad. Like visually it's fine, sound design is like okay, and then the gameplay is just boring. But it's not as frustrating or shitty as X-Men and Back to the Future. So yeah, my first time playing Jekyll and Hyde, and I was just underwhelmed, but I wasn't angered by it. So one of the worst NES games? That's debatable. Maybe if I was doing like a 20 worst or 30 worst or something, this would be in there. But as far as like the, 5 or 6 I included in this video, this is not at the bottom of that list. It's just boring. So there you go. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
The Adventures of Bayou Billy.
Alright, next up, The Adventures of Bayou Billy, which was chosen by Evercade Effect. And this was a game I was actually kind of looking forward to playing, just because I've played through and finished its Famicom counterpart, which is called Mad City. And actually quite like that game. Like, it's a fun blend of beat 'em up and light gun game and driving game. And I like that. Stuff like that, or like Vice Project Doom, games that seek to blend different gameplay styles. That's fine. But I had heard that The Adventures of Bayou Billy was retooled to be just ball-crushingly difficult. As like a way to discourage people from just like renting and beating games over a weekend. Like, I guess it was meant to encourage people to buy instead of rent, because you would need to spend a considerable amount of time with this game to figure it out and beat it. But what really happens is it's just a frustrating, shitty game. And it's entirely too difficult. The enemies in here, like, especially after having already played Mad City, the enemies take so much damage, and they inflict so much damage, and there are so few, like, health power-ups and things, and then you have a boss battle with alligators, which was, like, not, like, good at all. Like, why? You're supposed to avoid the alligators. The alligators are more of, like, an obstacle than an enemy. There's that, but it was just, as soon as I started playing it, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna want to play this very much, and like, I didn't even get out of the first stage before I was like, screw this, and then I just popped in Mad City, because there's an English translation of it anyway. So yeah, playing Bayou Billy just made me want to play Mad City again. So I turned on Mad City and played through, like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 stages, and had some fun with it. Just to remind myself that there's a pretty good game here if it's not totally screwed up by really misguided programmers who just wanted to give North American gamers a hard time for some reason. So yeah, The Adventures of Bayou Billy, I didn't even bother getting out of the first stage. It was so frustrating and shitty. And it's like one of those things where it's like I can already see, like, if I put more time into this game, I'm just going to get more angry and frustrated and disappointed. So I put this one down like right away and started playing its superior Famicom counterpart, and had some fun with that. So Adventures of Bayou Billy, pass on that. If you're like emulating and stuff, just don't even bother with Bayou Billy. It's such a frustrating experience. Get yourself Mad City, because again, it's translated now if you want everything in English. And it's a much better game because it's not so ball-crushingly difficult, and it's still like a reasonably fun beat 'em up shooting and driving game. It's pretty cool. So Mad City gets a big thumbs up. Adventures of Bayou Billy gets a big thumbs down. This game is a turd. Next up, Total Recall, with Arnie there on the title screen, looking, surprisingly like Arnold. Not a bad job there. This was chosen by HV Pride, and another game I was interested to play because I'd seen it on AVGN. It looked terrible, but it seemed like it might be kind of entertaining to play just because it's based on So it's like a radical movie, just like this, like really hard R, like tons of violence and nudity. And the lady with 3 titties is really cool. So yeah, I was like, all right, okay, Total Recall. I've heard it's really, really bad, but how bad could it be? And I was also interested because it was, if I'm not mistaken, it's developed by Interplay and published by Acclaim. And I played Interplay games on the SNES and like the N64. I know not everything they did was great, but like stuff like Clay Fighter and Boogerman, like I really like Boogerman. That's a great game. And they like published Earthworm Jim, so I'm like, all right, Interplay, let's see what they could do. But yeah, this game is just, it's like unplayable for me. It's not unplayable, but it's so frustrating that it's another one like Back to the Future. I didn't really get very far, and it's another one where like when I kept dying at one, when you get to your apartment and you got to kill your wife, you got to kill Sharon Stone. And then, what was the other segment? The X-ray machine. I kept getting killed, so I just went and watched a long play, and I was like, okay, you just have to kill enough bad guys to get out of there. But I was just getting frustrated and really didn't feel like it. But then it was another one where I saw where, like, if you just know the ins and outs of the game, you can beat it in, like, under 30 minutes. And I guess that's why all these games are so damn hard, is because there's not much to them. If they were any easier, you could just walk through it in like 30 minutes and then you're done. And then what are you going to do? So yeah, it's difficult, I guess, just as a way to draw out the length. But again, just like Bayou Billy, it's just so frustrating I didn't want to play anymore. So opening up with like the beat 'em up segments, which are just like awful. You just have this like crappy little punch, and then they're like guys that jump all around you. Some people are shooting at you. There are fists coming at you through a hole in the wall. Which, yeah, again, looks like a glory hole. That's not great. But again, the way it was playing and the way it looked and the way you moved and everything, and everything was so like bad. It felt like this would be like a game again that would be like an Action 52 or something, just no effort, bottom of the barrel, just dog shit. So yeah, like the quote unquote beat 'em up segments. Really bad, and then you gotta shoot your wife, and if you don't do that quick enough, Michael Ironside comes in and kills you immediately. And then if you do get past that, you go to the X-ray stage, which you just have to jump all around and shoot at everything and hope you don't die until you get out of there. And I just didn't care, because I knew after that stage there's the rest of the game, which is gonna play more or less just like the crap I'd just been playing. So Total Recall, didn't get very far in this game, and I'm never going to, because I'm never gonna play this game again. Because it sucks. So, yeah, HV Pride, good call on this one. Total Recall, awesome movie, shitty game. And last, and maybe least, this might be the worst game I played today. I think it's between this and X-Men, but Ghostbusters. And this was a personal choice. I nominated this one because I'd never played it before, and I remembered, again, way back in the day, AVGN actually making like multiple videos on this game, like making 2 games back to back just to explain how bad it is. And I was like, okay, could it really be that bad? I mean, there's sections where you're like trying to catch ghosts and things, and that could be alright. So started playing it, and yeah, it's that bad. It's just, I don't know, it's hard to imagine like what a developer would be thinking to make a game like this, because again, you've got Ghostbusters and they catch ghosts, so why not? Because there are games that came after this, even a game that's on the NES and the Game Boy, New Ghostbusters 2, which is a great fun game where you just walk around as a couple of Ghostbusters and catch ghosts, and it could not be simpler. So you could just do that. It could be side-scrolling or top-down, whatever it is, but just a Ghostbusters walking around, shooting ghosts with their proton pack, and then catching them. And that's it. But I don't know. It's hard for me to wrap my head around this game. You're moving the Ghostbusters logo around the screen, and then when you got to buy a bunch of shit first. You got to buy traps and I think your beams as well. And you got to buy gas, which sucks. And it's all just stuff meant to draw the game out, like artificially extend the length of the game. Because if it was just a simple matter of go to the blinking building, catch some ghosts, and then just wait for the Gozer building to open up, you'd be done with this game in like 10 or 15 minutes. But no, you gotta like drive here and get gas and buy this and blah, blah, blah. And it's all just so tedious and boring. I think that's the worst part of this game. It's just boring. It's not any fun, which is the opposite of what Ghostbusters like is and should be. The Ghostbusters is entertaining and it's funny. And they're like fun movies to sit through and watch. Even the second one to like a certain extent, but the first movie especially. So Ghostbusters should never be boring, and it should never be frustrating or not fun. It should just always be cool as shit. And they even make something like the Ghostbusters theme song unbearable by having it just loop over and over and over again, and like just not even a good like chiptune version of it. Like you could probably go on YouTube and just search Ghostbusters theme chiptune remix or whatever and find much better versions than this professional game development company from back in the day. But yeah, they couldn't give us like even a decent rendition of what's a fairly simple song, an easily recognizable tune that almost everybody loves, but then you know turn into something that you're instantly gonna hate it because it just never stops playing. So this is another game that I didn't get all that far in. Like I bought the stuff, I went around the map, I caught some ghosts, but once you've done that a few times, you're just done, or at least I was. So it was boring, repetitive, the graphics sucked, the sound design sucks, and at times it was just kind of frustrating. So just all around like a really terrible game, a terrible experience. And between this, X-Men, and Back to the Future, and then like Bayou Billy and like Dr. Jekyll to a lesser extent, Total Recall, but yeah, this entire episode has just been awful. I can't believe I did this to myself. But yeah, Ghostbusters, definitely I would, if I was going to do like a top 10 worst NES games, Ghostbusters goes in there, probably in the top 5. This game is awful. One of the worst games I've ever played. So there you go, everybody. Those are 6 awful, low down, no good NES games. Did your recommendation make it into the video? Let me know down in the comments, and also let me know down there what do you think is the worst ever NES game, or at least what's the worst one you've ever played, because I very likely will do another video like this. There are a lot of NES games that I've never played before, precisely because they have such a terrible reputation. So if there's just something really bad, especially like if it's something you got it as a Christmas gift or whatever, as was the case with that one unfortunate gentleman, and it ruined your Christmas, be sure to let me know down in the comment as well, because I just love reading about ruined Christmases, don't I? So yeah, hope you had fun watching the video, fun at my expense maybe, but that's okay too. And again, let me know down in the comments, have you played any of these games? What did you think of them? And again, what's the worst NES game you've ever played? And of course, as always, if you want to call me an asshole down there, that's perfectly okay too. So thanks for watching this edition of More Games, everybody, and I hope to see you on the next one. Take care. Goodbye.